pop cultural festival has to offer, including the annual Cosplay contest. We'll learn about all the exciting displays of fan dedication. I'm Ernie Muniz.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Dixon, who'll tell us about the Itasha Car Show, which will feature the coolest lowrider bikes themed with anime and other beloved pop culture fandoms.
And as always, we'll discuss the top stories of the day at the top of the hour.
And while Ernie and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, questions, and concerns. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston, live from Comicpalooza, right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Israeli military says Iran fired about 20 missiles at Israel today, hitting buildings in Tel Aviv and Haifa. Several people were seriously wounded. Israel says its forces struck Iranian nuclear sites on this 8th day of Israeli attacks designed to eliminate Tehran's nuclear threat. Iran's foreign minister was in Geneva today for talks with some of his European counterparts. NPR's Lauren Frere has more on that from London.
The foreign ministers of Britain, France, Germany, and the European Union are all meeting Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The Europeans are urging a return to diplomacy after days of war, but Tehran wants Israeli bombings to end first, with Iranian state TV quoting Araghchi as saying there's no room for negotiations with the U.S. until Israeli aggression stops. The Trump administration says it'll decide within 2 weeks whether to join Israeli attacks. British Foreign Minister David Lammy says that's the window now for any diplomatic solution. Lauren Frere, NPR News, London.
NPR's Frank Ordonez reports on division inside MAGA, including reaction from former Fox talk show host Tucker Carlson and former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, a day after President Trump said that he would decide within 2 weeks on whether to take action against Iran.
In announcing that 2-week delay, the White House says Trump is following his own instincts and that Carlson and Bannon's position did not play a role. And I should also note that not everyone in MAGA world opposes U.S. involvement. Folks like Fox News' Mark Levin have enthusiastically called for Trump to help Israel in the war. And so have folks like Senator Lindsey Graham, who has traditionally taken a more hawkish stance on foreign policy.
NPR's Franco Ordonez reporting. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Ottawa will impose new tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum imports starting July 21st. But as NPR's Dan Karpinchuk tells us, Carney says that will depend on trade negotiations with the United States.
Carney would not say what the new tariffs would be, but July 21st coincides with the end of the 30-day deadline for a trade deal that was mentioned when Carney and President Trump met on the sidelines of the G7. Carney also says Ottawa will limit federal procurement policies to favor Canadian suppliers and what he describes as reliable trading partners. And he will announce new retroactive tariff quota rates on imports of steel products from non-free trade agreement countries. They will be at 100% of the 2024 levels. There will also be task forces for steel and aluminum to help guide the government's decision-making. Earlier this month, President Trump doubled existing tariffs on steel and aluminum imports to 50%. For NPR News, I'm Dan Karpinchuk in Toronto.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Hundreds of people gathered along Broadway Street yesterday in Galveston to celebrate Juneteenth as the historic Reedy Chapel. Reedy Chapel is one of the original locations where former slaves gathered to celebrate after learning about their freedom. Former President Joe Biden attended as the guest of honor. He spoke about the importance of the holiday.
And Juneteenth represents both the long and hard night of slavery and subjugation and the promise of joyful morning to come.
Biden was invited to attend the celebrations as a way of thanking him for signing the law that made Juneteenth a federal holiday. For just over a year, a healthcare nonprofit in Fort Bend County has been providing free legal aid to patients. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about the program.
When Fumilayo Gregory became unable to work due to a disability, she received legal help from an unusual place, her doctor's office. Gregory is one of more than 200 patients who've received legal assistance through a medical legal partnership in Houston's southwest suburb. The program is run by the healthcare nonprofit Access Health. Gregory says the program's attorney, Susan Soto, helped advocate for her when she struggled to pay rent on time due to her disability.
She is working from her heart. She helped people from her heart. She's a great woman.
The program also pairs patients with attorneys through Houston volunteer lawyers. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
An investigation will continue today after a woman's body was found in Lake Houston that matched the description of someone who went missing since Tuesday. Police say the person fell off the back of the jet ski but did not resurface. Search teams have been looking for her since. Authorities are reminding people to wear life jackets when out on the water. It's currently 88 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Subaru and its retailers, partnering with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society this June to give blankets and messages of hope to patients facing cancer. Learn more at Subaru.com/care.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Well, 2 out of 3 was right.
That's right.
Frank isn't with us, but you know what we have in place of him?
Comicpalooza.
Comicpalooza. We are coming to you live from Comicpalooza at the George R. Brown in downtown Houston, where the city is going to be taken over by cosplayers and fans of sci-fi and comics and everything pop culture.
And it's already started. On my way in, I saw that there was a huge line of people already parking and getting ready, and you can just feel the energy as soon as you walk in, and I already see some people dressed up in their cosplay outfits. This is really exciting, Ernie.
I should warn people, if you're listening to us and you think, oh, I'm going to rush right down, I don't think the doors open until 1,
That's
the floor
right.
doesn't open until 2, but then the whole thing unfolds for the rest of the weekend, and we hope that you'll come down and join all the fun, and we're very excited to be here. You know, part of the beauty of Comicpalooza is the visual. Yeah. And we're coming to you live.
That's right. And you can head to our YouTube channel and watch us live. And there's going to be a lot to see. Usually you just see us and our guest in our studio, which is also fabulous. But today we're going to have cosplay judges. What else do we have on the show, Ernie?
Oh, we're talking cars and comics. We're talking Comicpalooza University, Comic Couture.
Comic Couture.
That's going to be cool. We've got so much. A muralist. We've got a lot coming in today's show. And you mentioned cosplayers. I see a couple over there right now that are going to be our guests, and we'll get into it in a bit. The costumes, my friends love to come for cosplay, to just look at it. It's amazing.
Exactly. It's visually just beautiful, but then also you see the vendors and the amount of artistry and talent that goes into the different vendors that are here that are also showcasing their art, and there's literally something for everyone.
Yeah, if you think to yourself, well, I'm not big into comic culture, or I'm not big into action films, or I'm not big into horror films, and I say that because all of that is represented here. Yes. There is still so much more. I mean, I one time moderated a panel with J.J. Jimmy Walker from Good Times, so they reach into the history of pop culture too, so it's a wonderful thing. If you want to join into the conversation today, of course, Celeste mentioned you can watch us on YouTube, where the comment section always comes alive. It's already happening.
It is absolutely hopping, which, by the way, Alex Garza asked, I wonder if we'll find out today if Celeste finally watched Back to the Future. I have not, but then my British computer guy says I doubt she did. She probably never seen Star Wars either, or Jaws, which, confession time, I have not seen Jaws or Star Wars.
What are you doing here?
You know, I don't know. What am I doing here?
Oh, it's going to be the crowd. You're lucky the crowd isn't in yet. They would be.
They're going to start throwing tomatoes at me. That's what's going to happen.
It's Comicpalooza weekend. You haven't seen those films. What guarantee are you going to make us that you're going to educate yourself in this world?
I think I'm going to start with Back to the Future.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to start, and then, but here at Comicpalooza, I'm taking it all in. I mean, it's
a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But when I get home, I'm going to a wedding tonight.
Okay.
But I will,
we'll allow that.
but I will make time to watch those movies. I promise, Alex, and I promise my British computer guy.
If you have questions for us or our guests throughout the show, remember it's easy. Just give us a call at 713-440-8870 or send us a question and talk at hellohouston.org. You get to go to a wedding tonight. I don't get to leave here tonight because I just found out I'm moderating Hayden Christensen.
Which is extremely exciting. For those that don't know, Hayden Christensen was actually in the Star Wars movies.
He's
been in
Anakin
a lot.
Skywalker, who, spoiler alert, becomes Darth Vader.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think that's okay to say now. I think people know that part of it. So I'm going to get to do that panel this evening at 6 o'clock here, and it's free and open to anyone who is inside Comicpalooza. So if you're ticketed in, this is one of the many free events you get with your ticket.
But Arnie, you have a long history with Comicpalooza. You've emceed some of their cosplay events. Is that right?
Well, panel-wise, it all started, I want to say 10 years ago maybe, when I got the call on a Friday night, Ernie, can you interview Stan Lee tomorrow on stage? And I was like, what? It was on a Saturday night. Stan Lee was on Sunday. And I was like, I'm in. Yeah. And that started me on this journey at Comicpalooza, and every year I get invited back to moderate some panels. Tomorrow I'm going to do Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt. And name some of your bigger names that you've done over the years, because I find it fascinating.
Tom Holland. I did the cast of Nightmare on Elm Street. It's one of those, I'm going to look it up because I can't even remember anymore all of the people they have given me the privilege of getting to talk with.
William Shatner.
Oh, William Shatner, yes.
That's who I thought you were going to go to, but I guess not. But yeah.
Well, it's so cool. It's so much fun. Grant Gustav from The Flash did him too. The cool thing is, though, unlike when we do an interview, for the most part, we talk, we take a couple phone calls.
Sure.
At Comicpalooza, they invite the audience to come up to the mics, and you get your chance to talk.
Yeah, and that's what I love about our city is that we have events like this that really bring people some incredible, talented artists right here in our city.
I do have a funny story. I'm going to go back to Stan Lee for a minute. So we often joke, Frank will tell you, he doesn't have the best hearing in the world. Oftentimes we will talk to him and he just is looking off somewhere because he doesn't even hear us. My hearing's not the greatest in the world, and when you're up on that stage and the echo in the hall, it's very hard to hear what people are saying to you. And right before we started with Stan Lee, he leans over to me, he's like, I'm practically deaf. You'll have to repeat every question to me. And I'm like, oh, God, I was hoping he could hear every question. So somebody would ask a question, and we would both look at each other like, I don't know what that was. But it's more the acoustics in the room are kind of complicated. But
well, Frank can't hear and you can't see, so
I can see. I just need little reading glasses to read.
It's fine. It's fine. We're all good.
Even though we're at Comicpalooza, it is still Hello Houston, and we are still going to be doing what we do every day. So let's jump into the headlines of the day, Celeste.
That's right. Thanks, Ernie. Questions around religion and education continue as two major bills are on the Texas governor's desk awaiting action. Senate Bill 10 would require the display of an explicitly Protestant how do you say that word?
I don't know what word you're trying to say.
Protestant wording of the 10 Commandments in all Texas public school classrooms. SB 11 would allow school district trustee boards and charter school governing bodies to set aside time for prayer and Bible readings. If Abbott signs either bill, it will likely lead to legal challenges under the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, the provision that underlies the doctrine of separation of church and state. Abbott has until Sunday, June 22nd, either to sign or veto the bills. If he does neither, they will automatically become law by default. Do you think the governor should sign the bills or not? Now is the time to call 713-440-8870. This is a theme that we have continued to see throughout our Texas legislative session.
In the question you posed there, it's interesting. Texas is somewhat unique, I believe, in the should he sign it or not. Signing it makes it law. Not signing it makes it law. I think the bigger question, should he veto it? And I truly believe he won't veto it.
I don't think he will. I think that this is not top of his priority, and that either which way, it's going to go into law, essentially.
Right. I would think it is top of his priority, but does he want to get his hands dirty
That's
by
what I mean.
signing it
That's what I
or
mean.
just letting it happen? The one nice thing about letting it happen is you're saying they decided it because the legislature put these to him, so they have already agreed it should be. So it's interesting to see. What do you think? Do you think we should either have the 10 Commandments posted? It seems as though a lot of folks do, or should they set aside time for prayer? We've talked about these topics a lot on the show.
We have, and it's something that affects, obviously, us here in Houston. We have one of the largest school districts in the state, and it's one of those things where we understand that a lot of Houstonians feel pretty strongly when it comes to education, what they want for students, what families want within their classroom. And this is an interesting point because some people might say, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a poster, who cares? Other people say, no, this is not necessarily being inclusive.
713-440-8870. What do you think about these? We had Mike Miles on the show.
We did.
And you asked him about it, if I'm not mistaken, you or Frank. And he basically, if I'm remembering correctly, he said, my job is to follow the laws of the state.
Yes.
So if it does get signed into law, it will happen in our schools. I don't think he's planning to be a rebellious district. And so if it does happen, which it probably will, it will be the law of our land.
That is, again, we want to hear from you. 713-440-8870.
Let's move on. Oh, wait, we got a comment before I move on.
Wayne from Galveston is on the line. Wayne, welcome to Hello Houston from Comicpalooza.
Wayne, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go, Wayne.
Yes, American people always hollering about civil liberties, and they want their civil liberties, and most of the kids don't understand the Bible anyway, and some of them don't. It's Catholic, some of them Muslim, some of them raised different. So I don't know why you want to put the 10 Commandments, and then when some of them grow up, they be atheists. So then you want to turn around and put the lottery next to gambling. Next, you're going to put that on the board too? That don't make sense.
Wayne, thank you very much for that call at 713-440-8870. He brings up a good point, and oftentimes we see a movement to achieve something without maybe those that are voting it into power necessarily agree with all the tenets of it, but feel that is the move they should be supporting.
We had State Representative James Tallarico on Hello Houston. We interviewed him a few weeks back, and he is in theology school. He's a pastor. He's very vocal about his Christianity, and he was very outwardly against this. And I think it parallels to a little bit about what Wayne was saying right now, which is when you're pushing something on people, is it helpful or is it going to backfire on you?
We run into oftentimes the question of separation of church and state.
Yes.
Should the state be putting a religious-based document into the classrooms? Those on the other side of it would say, but it is a historic document that so much of what we ended up using to craft our nation was based on, so it should be included in our classrooms. That seems to be where the debate sits. 713-440-8870. Daniel from Houston is on the line. Daniel, what are you thinking?
I don't think that the classroom is the place for religious symbols or any other sort of thing like that. I think Francis Bellamy had it the best when he made the original Pledge of Allegiance. It did not include in God, under God. It was none of these allegiances. None of this has anything to do with your country or even the idea that this is an historic document. There's a lot of historic documents, but that doesn't mean the classroom is the place for them. So.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that comment. I think what he's also referring to is the under God statement was added, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1950s to the Pledge of Allegiance. It was not there initially, and then it was put into it. So I think that's what he's referring to.
And again, you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. And we have a call from Katrina from Northside. Katrina, welcome to Hello Houston. What are your thoughts?
I do not believe in bringing church into the classroom. I am a strong believer in separation of church and state. The classroom should be where they spend their time teaching our kids to read, to write, to do mathematics. I don't want them teaching them religion. That's my job at home. That's not their job. So I don't want to see it in the classroom.
Thanks, Katrina, for joining us on that. You know, it was interesting when Frank pushed Superintendent Mike Miles about this specific bill. Superintendent Miles basically said, I'm in charge of math, science, reading. I will follow what the state, kind of what you were also talking about earlier. I think a lot of people also feel very, that is something very personal and private to my family. I want to be able to be the one to talk to my children about the Ten Commandments and what we believe in our home and our religion.
Yeah. Anyway, we are interested in what you are thinking on this topic, 713-440-8870. I'm going to jump to one of the topics that I think is really fascinating. And since we're at Comicpalooza and we think sci-fi, so science plays into that, only a few weeks after Pope Leo's election, the New York Times has done a deep dive on his ancestry, revealing a diverse and famous family background. In an article written by Harvard University professor Henry Louis Gates, the New York Times has discovered that the Chicago native, the Pope, is related to Pierre and Justin Trudeau, Angelina Jolie, Hillary Clinton, Jack Kerouac, Justin Bieber, and Madonna. Not the Madonna, but Madonna. The pop singer. Oh, what do you think of our Pope now?
Well, are you related to anybody famous? Do you believe in ancestry research? 713-440-8870. So I have a lot of questions about this, Ernie.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Angelina Jolie, Hillary Clinton, Justin Bieber, all of these people are actually related to each other as well?
Could be, depending on how it breaks down. To go a little deeper, that there was a Canadian ancestor named Louis Boucher de Grandpré. I don't know if that's close at all. And he was from Quebec, according to the New York Times. His family is the connection through all of this. Then Pope Leo's family ended up coming to the United States within this century, as the paper reported, many settling in New Orleans, one of America's great melting pots. So once that happens, then all of it. Have you ever done it?
It's very interesting.
Have you done
No,
genealogy?
I have never done genealogy. I just know that my dad's from Panama, my mom's from Mexico, and that's what we got.
But you don't know where they go. I did the, I don't remember if it was 23andMe or if it was me and my ancestry or Ancestry. One of those. And a friend of mine, I gave him out for Christmas, the
Did
gifts.
you? I must have missed that Christmas because I
You
didn't
did,
get
because
one.
I didn't know you then.
Okay.
It's been a little bit. But I do have one kit left. I'll bring it in if you promise to do it.
I would totally do it.
Okay.
But I don't want to tell. I don't know. That seems kind of
Well, this was the problem. One of my friends refused to do it because he believed that if somehow somebody was fingered for a crime and the DNA wasn't right and they look and they make a mistake, he would get his DNA pulled and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. But there are fears about having this DNA
There's
test.
some real, well now, and there's like a lot of questions around that because now they use it to solve crimes and they've cracked cold cases that have been open for years. It gets very interesting. But we were talking earlier about a couple of bills that have gone through that would allow that are on Governor Abbott's desk right now that integrate religion and education. Allison from the Heights is on the line, and Allison, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment?
Hi. Yeah, I do not think that the Ten Commandments should be posted in the classroom. As somebody with a young son, I think it is up to the family to educate kids on how what religious influence they should have. And I feel like I'm uniquely situated to speak on this as an attorney.
Allison,
and
I'm going to jump in there a little bit. Your phone line's breaking up a little bit. I think we got what you were saying. I apologize for that. Also, we're on location, so you may notice a slight delay between us asking for a call and getting the call. That's what that's about. But Allison, thank you for those comments. We're going to try and grab one more from Brenda from Baytown. What's on your mind, Brenda?
Good morning. This is Brenda from Baytown, and I feel like we're infringing on the Constitution when we don't keep the church and the state separate. I'm very much against posting the Ten Commandments in a Protestant way. In the classroom, after 37 years of public school education, we have all kinds of religion and kids at our school And if we do that, we're just going to alienate so many other students in our schools. Schools need to be inclusive, and I feel like that would definitely be exclusive. Well, not exclusive like
Brenda,
good. It would be bad.
Brenda, thank you for a call. If I tallied correctly, all of our callers today were against it.
Yes. And remember, if you have a bad signal, you can also send us a text with your comment at 713-440-8870. So if we weren't able to get to you or we had a bad connection, please shoot us a text.
Also, remember, if you're on the other side of this issue, we want to hear from you, too. We've only heard one side this morning. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Quickly, I want to tell you today is also, you're going to love this, National Ice Cream Soda Day and National Vanilla Milkshake Day.
Yeah, well, something we learned about Root Beer Day was Frank does not like root beer floats.
Do you like floats? Do you like milkshakes?
I love root beer floats and
there you go.
milkshakes, and that's delicious.
And it's the first day of summer. We didn't have Frank to give us the weather today, but there you go. Frank will be back with us on Monday. Celeste, take it away.
Live at Comicpalooza coming up on Hello Houston, Maeve, Aviary, and Liam Norris, 2 award-winning cosplay professionals and judges for the cosplay contest here at Comicpalooza will join us next, and I hear they are in costume. I also see it. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Ongoing ICE raids have led to a massive slump for businesses in Latino neighborhoods of Los Angeles.
Our community is genuinely scared to leave their homes at moments, and many of the vendors here are also afraid to open shop.
We take you to a beloved Mexican market, El Mercadito, to hear how business owners there are holding up on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear it this afternoon at 3 o'clock on News 88.7.
It can be hard to stay informed about what's happening in our city, our state, and across the country. That's why Houston Public Media makes it easier.
Everything you hear on News 88.7 is powered by you, not advertisers. 80% of our funding comes from our Houston community.
That's what makes public media different. It's community funded and always here for you when you need it.
Join that community now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
It's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week we've got new looks at cuisines you might think you already know. Kush Bouchard shares the ingenious snacks, shortcuts, and hacks of the Indian-American home kitchen. And Dookie Hong and Matt Rodbard lead us on a tour of the very modern food of Korea today. It's coming up on The Splendid Table.
You can hear it Sunday at noon.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Stages, presenting Let Her Rip, a new play set in 1888 London, where 3 women fight for justice during a labor movement and the terror of Jack the Ripper. Through June 22nd, stageshouston.com.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, we are coming to you live from Comicpalooza. Celeste and I are here, and I want to tell you, the global market for cosplay costumes and wigs is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But that's just proof that cosplay is for everyone, from beginners to total pros. And that inclusivity is absolutely encouraged at the annual cosplay contest here at Comicpalooza, happening this Saturday. But that doesn't mean all throughout the convention folks aren't wandering in cosplay. It's kind of amazing. To discuss the world of cosplaying, we welcome Aviary and Liam Norris, 2 award-winning cosplay professionals and judges for the cosplay contest here at Comicpalooza this year. Welcome, and good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for getting suited up to come join us here. Okay, I'm going to start off with, how many hours are you guys going to be in costume today?
You want to go first?
All day.
Same.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, how long does it actually take you to get into costume?
You can go first.
For me, depends on the suit. Usually under 30 minutes. 10 if I'm really rushing. But
You're Spider-Manning it today.
Yes.
Will this be you the whole weekend, or are you going to vary it up?
There will be variations of Spider-Man today. Later today, I will be a new variation on Wolverine. And tomorrow I'll be rocking the classic red and blue. And then Sunday, the black suit.
Ooh. Maybe you're next. Are you going to be? Who are you today, and who are you going to be the whole weekend?
So I'm wearing this today for the interview, and also I'll be wearing this tomorrow for the cosplay contest. I'm cosplaying Russian literary icon Nikolai Gogol, if you'll believe it. He obviously looks exactly like this from the anime Bungo Stray Dogs.
Amazing.
And throughout the weekend, I'll be cosplaying a couple of other anime and other this animation faves from Alien Stage, which is a music video series, and Wolfwood from Trigun.
So do you pick these characters, or do these characters pick you?
Are they thrust upon you?
What type of connection do you feel whenever you're deciding which costume or cosplay outfit you're going to put on?
So my very first Spider-Man costume was based on a Spider-Man that, believe it or not, operates in Houston, Texas. I'm from Houston, and so I'm connected to the city. I wanted to honor that. The skills that I got working on that costume work really well for Spider-Man costumes. Since then, I have made, give or take, 20 of them, all different variations. So it's kind of like I chose a character 6 years ago, and I'm still working to wander out from there. So
Before we get to your answer, I just want to point out what you said in your answer was made it. A lot of these can be purchased, but this is a custom-made Spider-Man suit?
It is.
Wow. Yes. That's impressive. If you can't see, please go to our YouTube channel and check these outfits out. They're pretty amazing. I cut you off before you could answer.
Oh, you're fine. I think that I really get inspired by just the look of the character. I mean, I was watching this show and just this character just jumped out the screen at me because I was just I have to have that on my body. I just have to look like that. I need it. And sometimes a character will just be a personal favorite, a childhood fave character, but lately it's really been about the fashion of it all, I think.
Yeah.
And how much of it is fashion?
For me, I think it really varies from person to person what everyone's goals for cosplay are, but I work in the fashion industry, so it kind of really is everything to me. I love doing my own little personal twist on the character. I'll do custom fabrics and just custom little details that I think would be a fun little zhuzhing up of the look.
I love a good zhuzh.
I love the word zhuzh.
Right?
Yeah. I want to remind folks also, if you're listening right now and you've ever been curious about cosplay and want to ask a question, give us a call right now at 713-440-8870. I don't think you could have two better experts to answer your questions about it, and I don't mean Celeste and I. I guess I have to ask, how did it all start for you? Was it going and seeing folks in these costumes and saying, I want to do that too? Or was it, I can do this, and then you came into the world? Was it the chicken or the egg for you guys?
It was midnight movie premieres, getting dressed up with my family, not full-on cosplay, but wearing, something to celebrate this new movie we were going to go see. And that just kind of morphed over time until all of a sudden I was making my own cosplays. And I'm a COVID-era cosplayer, so I learned during the pandemic, and so I didn't actually go to a Comic-Con until 2021, after I had developed my skill set. So, the con world was totally new to me, but it came from this family tradition that I've had my whole life.
Love that.
I think that I grew up going to Renaissance fairs and everything with my family, and always dressing up all the time. My family was always dressed to the nines for these events. And then in middle school, I had a friend who had already gone to one of these events before, and this was way back in 2006, not to date myself too hard. But she said, "Oh, you should come. Everyone dresses up. You have to dress up." And I was like, okay, I mean, if you have to dress up, I'll do it. And so my mom made me the costume, and I showed up, and I kind of looked around, and I said, this is it, actually. This is this is my spot. So it just kind of has been this lifelong love of coming to these events and dressing up as these characters just my entire life.
Amazing. You're listening to Hello Houston, and we are live at Comicpalooza, and we're speaking with Maeve, Aviary, and Liam Norris, 2 cosplays pros that look incredible. You can catch us on YouTube. And they're also judges. So talk to us a little bit how you started going from making your own costumes to now you sit and judge other people's costumes.
You sit in judgment of others.
Yeah.
Well, the judgment's all in fun. And it's so I started as a competitor. And as a competitor, what you're really focused on is the craftsmanship of it all. It's not making necessarily the biggest or flashiest thing, but the most complete, well-done thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so through competing, you get an eye for what's a good finish on sewing, foam, 3D printing. And eventually, you've been at it long enough, they invite you to judge something, and all of a sudden, you're at Comicpalooza, and
you're a judge.
Exactly.
Maeve, I've mentioned that I have emceed the cosplay contest in the past, and I'll tell you, it was eye-opening, even though you only have one eye that we can see today. It was fascinating because you're thinking initially, oh, some people threw together some costumes, and then you see what comes down the runway, and it is awe-inspiring.
Yeah. No, it's an art form, absolutely. I just this is my 9th or 10th competition I've judged now, and every time it just completely blows me away. I've judged large and small competitions, and every single time it's just I just get so happy seeing people who just care so much about making something cool and wanting to show it off that they would just come into the judging room and make themselves vulnerable in this way to talk about their process and their art.
Yeah.
And the amount of detail that goes into it. I mean, what I find most interesting is I'm sitting here looking at both of you, and you'll have props and your wigs. And I mean, how much does all of this cost? Usually.
That depends on the person, because some folks can do some really spectacular stuff with a very tight budget. This suit probably was $152, maybe $300 in materials, but then you have to put the hours in beyond that. And this, isn't one of the most detailed that I've done.
But I mean, I'm sitting here across from you, and it is very detailed.
Well, thank you
I'm
so
looking
much.
at the spider even on your chest.
Yes.
Is not just a print on a piece of material.
No, that is a rubber cast created by my friend T-Jack Effects. And so I love this level of detail, but with just simple spandex, I mean, you can look like Spidey has jumped right off the page.
Wow.
Well, with just simple spandex, some of us can't. Which brings up another point. If you are doing a Spidey character or some of these that are in simple spandex, I'm assuming being a cosplayer is more than just making your outfit. It's staying in shape, it's staying fit, it's kind of becoming the character in some way as an actor puts on a role also.
It can depend on what version you're working with. Have you two seen Across the Spider-Verse or either of the Spider-Verse movies?
Yeah.
So
Ernie probably has. I have already confessed that I've not seen a lot of the movies.
well, they're fantastic. They're fantastic, and they are a cosplayer's dream.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they're a cosplayer's dream because they introduced Spider-Men, Spider-People of all different shapes and sizes, and so you can watch that movie, find one that you like, take that design and then bring that to reality. And so it brings the message of the movie is anyone can wear the mask. Well, it brings that to reality. So, I put in a lot of work on the fitness side of things, but not everyone would want to do that. And that's okay. So, yeah.
And when you're judging somebody and you're looking at your costumes, you're judging them on skill and detail, but what are some of the other things that people might be surprised about?
I look for, one of the first things that I look for is fit. So if the garment, they made garment, suit of armor, just whatever they're wearing, if it fits them well and if it drapes on the body as it should is really a big thing that I look for. I think that's the skill in itself is making sure that something is really it's made beautifully, but that it also is made for you is a really important part of it.
Now, we were talking about the contest part of it. We've been talking about what you do to create these. But I would have to say probably the most exposure people will have with you is just walking the floor here. And that in of itself is an amazing show. But I hear there's also certain rules that you want people to abide by when they approach cosplayers. You're not fascinations just wandering among us. You're actually professionals doing your job. What should people be aware of?
ask before taking a picture is a really big one. If a cosplayer is like doing something, like is in the middle of lunch or is like currently buying something, maybe asking if it's okay to take a picture, but being okay with them not kind of being off duty, as it were, I guess. Like asking for like a social media handle or something if they want to shout them out is always welcome. I think asking before touching anything is also a really big thing. Obviously, because a lot of these are handmade, people take a lot of care and time in them. So, like, we can be a little bit particular, I think, sometimes about touching cosplays. But I think those are the big ones that come to mind, is kind of asking before photographing and touching.
Yeah. Liam, do you find people forget you are people, real human, and they start thinking, oh my God, it's Spider-Man, and they get all into it like they're encountering the real character?
Yes, and so that's part of the fun of it, because so many of us get so done up, you're unrecognizable either due to makeup and a wig, or in my case, masks, that you do get to embody this character. And so that comes with some weight that, you know, understand where people are coming from. You know, but also related to asking before touching, you know, before you give your favorite character a hug, ask.
Make sure.
But otherwise.
Consent is important, yes.
Yes. Totally embodying the character is part of the fun of this. Getting to bring the characters alive is a really great time.
And that was something that I was curious about as we were coming to Comicpalooza. What is the difference between, like, a cosplayer and somebody that is simply dressed up?
I think that they're kind of, it's like a rectangle and a square situation, right? I think that...
Bring in those sides a little bit and you've made it.
Yeah. I think that cosplay is really, I mean, it's Halloween all year, really. And I think that if you want to embody a character and that it's from, like, media, or it's even a character that you created, like, you yourself want to embody a character that you like, congratulations, you're a cosplayer, you've done it.
We do have some YouTube questions for you all. One of our viewers wants to know, what are your day jobs and when you are not in character?
So I'm a paleontologist. I work at Texas Science and Natural History Museum on UT Austin campus.
At first, I wasn't sure if you were joking or serious.
No, I'm serious. I say that I'm living the 5-year-old's dream, paleontologist by day, Spider-Man by night. So,
my son would be very intrigued.
Well, if anyone wants to stop by and talk dinosaurs, by all means.
Yes.
So if you see a Spider-Man talking about dinosaurs, we know it's you, Liam.
Yes.
And how about you, Maevery?
I work as a technical designer in the luxury fashion market in New York City.
Oh, so you came in for this.
I did.
And Liam, you were already here.
Basically, up the road.
Up the road, close enough. There is this whole world of celebrity within the cosplayers. They're not just people get followings. People know them. It's a big excitement to see. Have you run into fans that are just, you can tell when they realize it's you that they have been following you?
Yes, and it's a two-way street because so I have friends who I've known online for a while. And there is nothing quite like getting to meet them in person, and you're equally excited to get to see each other. Now, I've also had times where folks recognize me, and it's so fun because, you know, they recognize the mask. So I can be walking around without my mask on. They have no idea who it is. And then I put on the suit, and they're, oh my gosh, it's ATX
Because
Spider.
like clowns with their makeup, the way you design the mask also is a little hint into who you are, as opposed to it just being a replication of what's in the comic book, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
How about for you, Maevery?
I think that, like, yes, it's been I've been recognized a few times. Like, it surprises me every time, honestly. Just I think I've been in this game for a long time, and I've never really like thought about the idea that like, oh, people can like notice what you do in like a wider context. So when people say like, oh my God, it's Aviary, I'm like, me? Is that me?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, in the Spider-Man world, what I notice a lot, especially in recent, there's a lot of Spideys running around any cons. What separates the better Spideys, do you think? And I know it's not necessarily just who can put the most money into the costume, but there's something about presentation. What would you tell people who want to be a really strong Spidey cosplayer?
Well, so one of the benefits and why you see so many spider people running around
Spider people.
Well, you know, I got to cover both. Also, you can buy them really easily, pre-made, ready to go, and you can slap that on straight to the con floor. Making your own is a great way to go to the next level. And then what I've got here in front of me, it's called a face shell. And what most people don't realize is in the movies...
And that's the mask he's talking about.
That's the mask, yes, the Spider-Man mask. Most people think that it's just a fabric mask, but it's actually a hard mask with magnetic lenses on the outside so that, you know, from actor to stunt person, it's the same, and so that it's got a consistent shape. That is a really great way to take that cosplay to the next level. It's not necessary, but it can help get a look that you're looking for.
How comfortable is that? I've seen a lot of Spideys. I've known folks that do this. It doesn't look comfortable.
It is certainly more comfortable to have the straight fabric mask. I do have friends who have more comfortable face shells than I do, but my specialty is not 3D printing and finishing, so... you know, I take what I've got.
Now, Aviary, I do have a question about you. You have won cosplay competitions. What were the outfits that you won during those awards?
My most recent one was actually here in Texas as well, last winter at Anime Frontier in Fort Worth, and that was for Muto from Princess Tutu, which is an anime from the early 2000s. It's inspired by Swan Lake, so I did a lot of gold work embroidery to make something very like beautiful. He's inspired by Prince Siegfried from the ballet, so I did this kind of like swan feather collar and like gold beading, so just something that I thought looked like royal and elegant.
As we say goodbye, send out an encouragement to people to enjoy this way of expressing themselves.
Anyone can wear the mask. Everyone brings something special to their cosplay. Have fun, make friends. Say hi.
If you want to wear something, go ahead and do it. It is yours for the taking. And every single time you go out to a cosplay event, I encourage you to make one new friend.
Well, we made 2 today.
We made 2.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Maeve, Avery, and Liam Norris are 2 cosplay pros and judges for the cosplay contest happening this Saturday at Comicpalooza. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And after the break, we'll discuss the Itasha Showdown with Koriey Dixon and fan favorite driver Darrell Robinson. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Some tariffs have been in effect for over a month now, including a 25% tax on auto parts.
We ordered parts and they arrived without any notice. They were 3 times the price.
I'm Rima Reis, a small repair shop trying to navigate tariff pricing. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace. It's coming up tonight at 6:30.
Hi, this is Matt Harrop. There's been a lot of news to cover in Houston over the last few months. Keep listening to Houston Public Media for the latest, and if you've got a car, truck, boat, or RV you don't need anymore, donate it to the station. It could be worth hundreds of dollars in support. The donation process is easy for you, and we'll pick up your vehicle in any condition. Here's how to get started. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. Thank you.
Support comes from Signify Business Cash by Wells Fargo. With this business credit card, cardholders can earn rewards on business purchases with no caps or categories to track. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/signify. Terms apply.
Support comes from Gulf Coast Blood, providing everything your group needs to save lives and make an impact in your community. Info on hosting a blood drive at your business, school, place of worship, or organization is at giveblood.org/host-a-blood-drive.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
One of the many special attractions here at Comicpalooza this weekend is the Itasha Showdown, a car runway experience. This is a car show featuring cars and motorcycles themed with anime and other beloved pop culture fandoms on display at the Comicpalooza show floor. Joining us now to tell us more is Koriey Dixon, who's running this Comicpalooza special attraction, as well as Darrell Robinson.
Yes, who is one of the fan favorite drivers. Welcome to both of you being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
So for folks that don't know, who wants to explain a little more completely? I guess it's anime, art, automobiles, all collide, and what do we see?
So I'll let you take it.
Yeah, wow. It's just an honor and a privilege to be here. Exactly what you just said. You get to take a car, be special about it, and either wrap it or theme it in whatever you want to theme that car. And it's just it's a never-ending work, putting all the cleaning, the materials, the ideas. People come together, and we're able to show this off here at Comicpalooza. So it's just a privilege just to be here and take these machines and really think outside of the box.
So where does the Itasha name come from?
So it comes from Japan. It means painful car, but it's not like painful in a way.
I've got a painful car.
Yeah, it means painful, but it's like the painfulness of respect, so to speak. You know, it takes a special person like us to drive around with our artwork on our sleeve, what we care about, whatever it may be, whether it be Spider-Man or Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Well, different a little bit, and explain this if I'm right about it. When we just had the cosplayers on, they're trying to emulate something we have seen. For the cars, it's more of inspired by, correct? Or are you trying to make replicas of things that exist within the comic world?
It's a little bit of all of that. For me, my car is Naruto, right? And I like Naruto because it kind of reflects a little bit of my journey in my life of never giving up, learning how to learn in school and all the challenges that I came up with. So that's why I did it. For you?
For me, it's for the kids and adults. People live and have dreams. I mean, we even drive by the children's hospital, and I mean, people cheering outside the windows or that are able to come down. It's just very special to have a car themed in someone's favorite character. So you might see Sonic the Hedgehog out here. You might see Mario. I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on over there.
And you know, when you think about a car, you think they're going to have all of the different weather elements and being outside. And like you said, you're putting your art on your car, something very vulnerable to getting scratched. What kind of materials are y'all using, and what does that process look like?
Well, let me jump on this too before you finish it. Like with the art cars, do you keep these year round, or is it just for showtime?
Daily drivers, most of them.
Daily drivers.
Yeah.
Because it brings, like I said, when you're on the highway, people stop. You're at a gas station, people want to take pictures with them. And, you know, we're some of the friendliest people you can meet. We put a lot of work into our cars, into our craft, and it's almost like someone with a tattoo. We put it on a car, and we want to show it out and just have a good time.
So to go back to what Celeste was just asking too then, about preserving that artwork, how do you keep it so that, or does it really hurt? Like my car gets dinged, I get upset. I can't imagine if one of your cars gets dinged.
Most of us are really particular about that, but a lot of us understand. So, you know, we're daily drivers, so it's going to happen. But the materials, most of the time we keep them in the garage. Just like if you go to a printing press and you want different types of media printed out, you have different types of material that you can put on your car, from chrome to just regular vinyl to PPF, you know. There's a lot out there to choose from to protect it, and the more money you spend, the longer it will last. And
when did you realize I want to take my art and put it on my car? What process do you have to go through to do that, to get to that point?
For me, it was the culture that I was in. I was doing a lot of anime conventions, and I ran into a couple of guys who was doing the car side, and I was doing the car side and the anime stuff separately. So I said I can combine the best of both worlds, and that's how I got into it. You know, and I just started doing conventions around the country.
I guess a lot of people are surprised when they come to something like Comicpalooza and all of a sudden find the cars. We're more common used to seeing the vendors, the cosplayers, the panel discussions. The cars is something cool and different.
Now, that's funny you say that, because the cars have always been there, but they've always been hidden. Like, this community is just now starting to come to the surface. We would go to car meets and they'd put us in the back because they really didn't understand us, you know, and then I guess somebody along the way figured out that we're stronger together, and we started doing conventions. Now, on the anime side, they've always had cars at their conventions, but on the comic book side and the pop culture side, nobody knew that they were out there, and when they were out there, it wasn't enough of them to do something like what we're doing. And Comicpalooza has become a home for just about the entire nation. We got people from California, New York, South Carolina, North Carolina. It grows every single year.
Yeah.
And what type of artistry are y'all doing? Is this something y'all are, drawing? Is this painting? What does that look like?
And these are some good questions.
They didn't study up for us, did they?
That's a very tricky subject because mostly everybody in our community knows that you can't just take somebody's commercial artwork and just put it on your car, right?
Right.
So most of it is recreated art in a vision of that person. Like when I did Naruto, I did my vision of Naruto, how I saw him. When you did your theme, you did what you thought was best at the time. We try not to copy it, but we want to be as close as possible to represent what we want, out of respect.
So Darrell, you have your car, but you walk around and you look at the other cars. Anything surprising here, fresh, exciting to you? Or are you like, oh, I know that guy, I know that car?
Coming in from last year, Rookie of the Year, wow. Fan favorite. I mean, I had no clue. I had no clue what I was getting myself into. So I dressed up last year. I had a 10-foot Transformer suit that matched my car, and I called it Black Widow Prime. So I was here stomping around, acting with my car, and people never seen something like that. I've had the kids tell me, oh, you're not a real Transformer. I said, but I'm faster than Bumblebee, though. I'm a Corvette. So the interaction that I got from the fans and the pictures and the memories and the smiles, that's what I was here about. And to answer that question, it's amazing because you meet new people. I mean, we have people from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, California, Kansas. So when they come to Comicpalooza, you get their Instagram, their Facebook handle, and you just innovate together. You push the envelope, and I think this year, I think I've done that.
Yes.
All right, Koriey, folks are going to come out here. What's something they shouldn't miss? What's a car that you're like,
oh,
you
don't put me
got
on
to
the spot
see
like that?
Okay, a couple of cars.
We have so many wonderful cars over there. There's a Spawn car that's over there that's phenomenal. The lowrider bikes are phenomenal this year.
That's cool.
Yeah, we've added that to our area this year, and they really brought it this year. We did it last year as a test. This year, they expanded. Next year, we'll expand them more because they're so beautiful. We have a few wrap reveals that's going to happen. We have a Slaughter car that's over there that's pretty good. We got a couple of Deadpool cars over there that are phenomenal. There's just so many to name, and I don't want everybody when I walk back over there to get my...
You don't want me to tell
Who's your favorite child? Yeah. So you mentioned that there's people coming from all over. Did they drive these cars down?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've had a Porsche gentleman. He came from New Jersey, and as soon as he got to the garage, it had a little oopsies,
Yeah, that was a very good, interesting story.
You just looked at each other. What's the story?
We're here for the story.
He bought a brand new 2025 Porsche. He got it wrapped in his favorite anime.
Yes.
And he drove it from New Jersey to Houston. Put over 1,000 miles on it. And apparently got behind a truck that was spewing rocks. They hit his radiator, caused a leak. And right when he got here, it started spewing.
The garage. As soon as he got to the garage, he parked behind me. And I was like, oh, there's some hot fluid. Oh. And I helped him. I got some West Virginia chrome, helped him out, got it situated for the time being. But
it's almost like elephants who make their way to the elephant burial ground. Like they just got to make it there before they die, and it made it here. It will live, though, right?
He's in the show. And we're thankful to have him. He had good spirits.
And that shows the commitment of the drivers, too.
Absolutely.
He wasn't going to miss Comicpalooza, and that's what this show means to the community, and we continue to grow every single year. And we've never charged our drivers anything to be here. We give them $1,000 for best of show, $500 for fan favorite, $500 for the best categories. Most of those categories has a cash prize associated with them. Plus, they get ample space and an energetic crowd that you just can't find anywhere else.
Darrell, I got like 2 seconds before I have to let you go. What did you do with your prize money?
I went to Perry's Steakhouse.
Love it. Koriey Dixon is running Itasha Showdown, a car runway experience, a special attraction here at Comicpalooza, and fan favorite Darrell Robinson. Thank you, Koriey and Darrell, for joining us right now on Hello Houston from Comicpalooza. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston live at Comicpalooza.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Muniz, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, committed to strengthening the state's workforce and its communities through safety and wellness grants and education initiatives. More at texasmutual.com/community impact.
We have a 30% chance of an afternoon shower. We'll warm up to about 94. Low tonight near 78. Right now it's 86, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston live at Comicpalooza. We'll speak with cultural anthropologist Dr. Stanford Carpenter, who will tell us about Comicpalooza University and its examining of pop culture. And Gil Muniz, who will tell us about the special attraction Comic Couture, which showcases unique fashion designs inspired by comic book and anime characters. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Muniz. We'll also speak with Bobby Ramos, founder of the Houston-based Ramos Renditions, a longtime exhibitor at Comicpalooza that specializes in creating all sorts of artwork from large murals to canvas works. And as always, we'll continue diving into the top stories at the top of each hour.
And as we dive into today's top stories, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The head of the United Nations is urging Israel and Iran to give peace a chance. The Security Council held an emergency meeting a short time ago for the second time since Israel began its conflict with Iran 8 days ago. NPR's Michelle Kellerman monitored the UN session.
As Israel and Iran continue to trade missile fire, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls this a defining moment for the world.
The expansion of this conflict could ignite a fire that no one can control. We must not let that happen.
He tells the UN Security Council that the confrontation is already taking a terrible toll. Israel says it acted because Iran was racing to build a nuclear bomb. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, says he can guarantee a, quote, watertight inspection system and says a diplomatic solution is in reach. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
President Trump has said he would decide within 2 weeks whether to take action against Iran. Well, how much is Trump's base divided over what comes next? Sarah Longwell is a political strategist and publisher of the conservative website The Bulwark. As Longwell explains in an NPR interview, many people backed Trump believing he would be an anti-war president or waiting to see if he reverses course.
One of the dangerous parts about Trump is that the kinds of people who have his ear, like Laura Loomer, big online influencers, those are the kind of people who moves Trump's decision-making. So I think his denials that this has nothing to do with it is wrong.
Sarah Longwell on NPR's Morning Edition. A federal appeals court says Trump can keep control of the National Guard troops deployed to Los Angeles. Guy Marzorati of member station KQED reports the decision puts a challenge from the state of California on hold.
The ruling from a 3-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals cited evidence presented by the Trump administration, including that protesters threw objects at ICE vehicles. The court said Trump deserved deference for his response, sending in the National Guard over the objections of California Governor Gavin Newsom. The president celebrated the ruling in a post on Truth Social, saying, quote, "This is a great decision for our country." Newsom said in a statement the state will press forward with its legal challenge. The ruling means Trump can maintain control of the Guard while the case moves through the courts. For NPR News, I'm Guy Marzorati in San Jose.
The British Parliament is a step closer to approving end-of-life legislation. Members of Parliament voted in favor of it today. The bill allowing terminally ill people over 18 in England and Wales to apply for an assisted death. The legislation now heads to the unelected House of Lords, and it is subject to more revisions. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. A teenager accused of escaping police custody downtown after allegedly shooting another person at a bus stop is back behind bars. The suspect was first taken into custody on Fulton Street near the North Loop and I-45. Police say the teenager was bitten by a police dog and had to go to a hospital to receive treatment. He managed to escape while still in handcuffs, according to KHOU. It's unclear what led up to the initial shooting. The price of fuel is starting to inch up in Texas. News 88.7's Matt Harrop has the latest numbers from AAA.
AAA reports that the average cost for a gallon of regular fuel right now is coming in at $2.83. That's about a 9-cent jump just in the last week. Of all the major cities, gas costs the most in Dallas. It's almost reached $3 a gallon on average. It's about 20 cents cheaper in Houston. Experts have pointed to tensions in the Middle East, raising the cost of oil as a potential reason to see prices for fuel increase in the near future. Gas is still cheaper in Texas compared to the rest of the country.
President Biden was in Galveston yesterday to celebrate Juneteenth. He spoke before the congregation at Reedy Chapel.
Juneteenth is a day of liberation, a day of remembrance, and a day of celebration. The Book of Psalms tells us, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Biden signed the law turning Juneteenth into a federal holiday in 2021. He accepted an invitation to appear at the church, which was one of the original sites where formerly enslaved people celebrated after learning about their freedom. It's currently 86 degrees and partly cloudy, with a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly before 3 p.m. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Muniz, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
As Meatloaf says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Frank is on vacation today, so Celeste and I packed up our gear and came to Comicpalooza.
And it's been exciting so far.
It is Houston's very own pop culture and comic and sci-fi and film and culture festival that happens every year here, and we're thrilled to be part of it this year. Doors aren't open yet, so we don't have hordes of people gathering around us, but it's interesting. As they're setting up, people keep gathering in front of us. You have the advantage of being able to watch on YouTube, and if you're not watching today, you've missed some cool things. Our cosplayers in the first hour
were fabulous. We had 2 cosplayers in the first hour that were just incredible, and they're also judges, and they've won awards for it, and the detail that they put into their costumes is
it's just amazing.
Phenomenal.
Remember, we do capture the show. Not only can you watch it live on YouTube, you can go back and see segments and interviews, and so you can have a chance to go back and take a look at the cosplayers and their outfits. That Spider-Man costume was amazing.
It was amazing.
And you think, well, but it's simple. It's the spandex. But it's that he made it himself and then put the layered 3D printing on it and the webbing.
The webbing and just the amount of detail that goes into it. But
not
we've also
to discount Maevery.
Oh, yeah, she was fabulous. I mean,
She's
she works in fashion,
so
right?
I expect
so
that
it's
from her.
it's fabulous. She was absolutely fabulous. And then we heard about the cars here at Comicpalooza, which also has a whole other layer
We
of
needed
artistry.
him to drive one of the cars in. That's what we should have done. Because radio's great when a car drives through it.
Yes, and we have had a lot of engagement earlier in our top stories. We had you all calling in. You can call in at 713-440-8870. We've also had a lot of engagement in our YouTube YouTube channels. I also, somebody said that they were going to throw tomatoes at me because I haven't seen.
Yeah, you know what? I
movies.
give you credit to come to Comicpalooza and admit what you haven't seen. I'll lie about it, but not you. You're going to let them know.
No.
So is it just the genre doesn't tickle your fancy? I mean, you're a mom, 2 kids, you got a career, you've got a husband, you got a lot going on. We know you're gardening.
I'm gardening. Well, no, you know what it is I think growing up, we didn't go to the movies that much, and I think it's very cultural. We heard from our cosplayers, it's their love for dressing up. One of them was going to the midnight showings of these events. So I just didn't grow up going to the movies a ton.
And I grew up with my dad owning a movie theater.
Right.
So we're on total opposite ends of the spectrum.
But now as an adult, I love going to the movies. And so I'm a big go to the movie, but I just missed a whole
and
era.
Now I stay home.
And watch the movies.
Yes, we shift back and forth. So whether you're a huge fan of this world or you're looking for that gateway drug to get into it, Comicpalooza is here for you. I was joking earlier with you that JJ Jimmy Walker from Good Times, from the 70s show, was here. They have reached beyond just the world of like sci-fi movies or comic book movies, and it's all pop culture is celebrated here, and that's what's so beautiful about it.
But we want to hear from you, so give us a call at 713-440, and we have topics to get into.
Before we do, I just want to let you know, still coming up, we're going to find out all about Comicpalooza University. We're going to find out about Comic Couture, which is going to be fun, and some artists that are here. We got a whole lot more to do. If you've got questions or want to engage with any of this, as Celeste said, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Celeste, start us off with our topics for hour 2.
Yes, as we just heard on the newscast earlier, President Biden was in Galveston yesterday. He made an appearance at the Reedy Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Galveston to celebrate the 160th anniversary of Juneteenth, which was yesterday on Thursday. Biden's arrival at the historic chapel Thursday evening was met with cheers, song, and dance. He attended a Juneteenth ceremony inside of the church, sitting shoulder to shoulder with event organizers and religious leaders. He spoke of the importance of voting and the history of the celebration. In at least 2 moments, President Biden seemed to reference President Trump, though not by name. When speaking about attempts to erase history, he referenced this guy before giving himself the sign of the cross, drawing laughter from the audience. At another point, Biden pointed to efforts during his administration to rename military bases named after Confederate military officers. In June of 2021, President Joe Biden officially made Juneteenth a federally recognized holiday. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on former President Biden being here in Galveston, his appearance? Was this the right venue, and was it appropriate to reference President Trump in a critical way? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I'm going to say big nothing sandwich. I think that the comments he made were so mild. So part of addressing an audience is trying to engage with an audience and feel the reaction of them and feed off of them. And I felt that's more, now yes, they were prepared remarks, and so I think he knew where he was hinting at. But in today's political rhetoric, this was so minor, so, I have a disagreement kind of thing. It wasn't what we hear from other elected officials where they are name-calling and ripping down. Nobody said this current president is the dumbest president we've ever had. But we have heard other people say that about past presidents or even presidents while they were in office. So I don't think there's much of an issue here. What I did like was the fact that he came to the birthplace of Juneteenth on Juneteenth. Was very warmly, as we could hear. I watched the live feed that was streaming. He was well received by the audience he was in front of. I'm happy he came and did it. I thought he actually, in all of his speeches of late, I thought this was the best one. He seemed engaged, enlightened. He was there. I would have put him first in the program. No, he sat through a whole bunch of the program before he got to go on. So
yeah, I really respect that he came down to Galveston. It really is an incredible part of history.
It's ours. It's right
ours.
Here.
It's right here. It's very local. It's very personal to us in our area and to the nation. And so to have former President Biden, who actually was the one that made it a federal holiday, to be here at the birthplace of Juneteenth, I think was very powerful. I don't know if he even needed to reference anything. He didn't say his name. I kind of feel like this is such a greater, longer lasting impact on what he did in 2021 that even making any reference to President Trump wasn't necessary.
I think listening to the speech, it didn't seem out of place what he said when he said it, because he was talking about the advancements that have come since that was signed. He said some stuff I didn't know about. Delaware not actually having to abide by the proclamation, the order for that created Juneteenth, because it was a northern state. So I thought it was interesting, educational. He made reference to what movements that are trying to happen and how some are coming backwards. It felt comfortable. But you know what? If you disagree with me, please let me know your take on it. Were you listening to it? Or even better, were you actually in the church yesterday and heard the former president speaking? Give me a call at 713-440-8870. Celeste and I would love to hear from you and hear your opinion on it.
Yes, give us a call and let us know what you think.
We did have a couple comments come in about an earlier topic we were talking about. We were talking about the Ten Commandments in classroom. Noah from Cyprus comments that the Ten Commandments, he doesn't agree with that legislation. Noah, are you on the line with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Hey, I wasn't sure if you were there or not, so that's why I went ahead and gave away what you were going to say. Talk to us.
Yeah, so, I'm not against, religion being around, if it's about morals being put into the, into students' minds and stuff like that. But if it's only one religious doctrine, it feels like you're kind of oppressing people and stuff like that. So we shouldn't really have a problem, if that is the case, of also putting the 5 pillars of Islam next to that. Also putting the tenets of Hinduism on there. What about Taoism, Confucianism? Especially with Houston being the most diverse city in the nation, literally, it affects so many people here, millions of people here. Like, personally, my other half of my family, my extended family, they're Muslims. My family is Christian. But I love those people with all my heart. I would die for them if I had to. But to oppress them and force them to be only following our doctrine inside a school of all places too, that's not right, because that's taking the children's mind and kind of manipulating it without permission of the parent. It takes power away from the parent, and the whole argument is that the parent's supposed to have power over religious stuff, and that's just how I feel about that.
Noah, thank you very much for those
joining
comments.
that conversation.
713-440-8870. He brings up a point, and you may know this better than I do on this one, Celeste. If the school district wanted, could they also post like that list of other religious documents he was talking about, or is there some kind of blockage of that, even though I don't know the details of that? Because I think that would be an interesting way to, okay, we have to put up the 10 Commandments in all classrooms. Let's also put up, if we have other students of other doctrines and faiths, let's put up their tenets.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think one of the issues that a lot of people have oftentimes when we're looking at these bills, for example, the two that we are currently talking about are Senate Bill 10, which would require the display of an explicitly Protestant wording of the 10 Commandments in all Texas public school classrooms. And we're also looking at SB 11, which would allow school district trustee boards and charter school governing bodies to set aside time for prayer and Bible reading. And I think a lot of time, the criticism around these bills is the verbiage. That it doesn't clarify, if a teacher decides, okay, I am going to have the 10 Commandments, can they also have, like you mentioned, other religious orders that have their set of rules that they, abide by? But it's definitely very. I was going to say it's definitely complex, but I actually don't think it's that complex. You either believe in the separation of church and state, or you don't.
Let's grab one more question on the 10 Commandments, and then we'll move over to our other topic. We have Scott calling from Ireland at 713-440-8870. Scott, what's on your mind?
I guess it's along the lines of the last caller and the last set of comments. I would just say is, if you look at SB 10, where they're requiring this Protestant version of the 10 Commandments, the 10 Commandments in translation is an explicitly political statement, and I'd be happier if you want to put it up as, if you want to claim that it's still a separation of church and state and it's meant to be our historical background, by all means, put it up alongside, like the last caller said, other documents. I want to see if the Senate provide funding for a history class around what are the different versions of this thing and what is a translation of a holy document represent.
Scott, thank you for those comments at 713-440-8870. If my memory serves me right, there is a monument in Austin, I believe it's in front of the legislature, that has the 10 Commandments engraved on it, and that's where they took the wording from
in
that
front of the
using.
Capitol. That is right. They're using that same verbiage to mirror it.
Yeah, and I don't know how that verbiage was decided upon either, but that's where they decided to go with it. We then were talking in this hour about former President Biden down in Galveston, speaking at a Juneteenth celebration at the church where I believe it was first celebrated. And on the line at 713-440-8870, Kenneth from South Park is on the line. Kenneth, what's on your mind?
Well, I don't think Biden was any kind of way wrong. Like right now, you cannot look at nothing on C-SPAN anywhere else with these senators. Every time they have some kind of reference toward him, is always talking about, well, Biden, that's how we ended up here and there and all of this stuff right here. And I can understand if he was in a nationwide broadcast or something like that, but in the way I feel, and anybody in there could tell you, he was with family when he talked like this here. And I believe he didn't say nothing wrong, and he got a right to his opinion. You know, he's just like me and you right now.
Kenneth, did you actually watch the speech, or did you read the speech, or were you there?
No, I didn't catch all of it, but, you know, I just put it this way right here, that, you know, it was near and dear to me because I've been in this area and here in East Texas, and I'm also a homeboy. You know, my second home is in Chicago. You know, I caught what he said. You know, but what I got out of it, he got a right to his opinion. He was not slamming the guy, nothing like that, and he didn't tell no lie.
Well, thank you for that, Kenneth, and always for sharing your opinions with us. We want to hear what everyone thinks. If you feel that the former president did go too far, give us a call. We'd like to hear your point of view on this. 713-440-8870. You know, I mentioned earlier that it was National Ice Cream Soda Day, National Vanilla Milkshake Day, but I didn't get to mention today is also National American Eagle Day.
Oh, how patriotic.
I know. Big fly, arms out wide. Okay, something else you may not know about me. You know, my dad owned a movie theater. We've mentioned that before. When I was a youngin', I was this was my title, Binghamton's foremost magician. My hometown in upstate New York, I was a magician.
You also went to clown school, and I don't think a lot of people know that about
I go every day, it seems. But the reason I bring up magic is because the International Brotherhood of Magicians, as we refer to in the craft as IBM, are holding their annual convention right here in Houston. So it'll be a rare opportunity for the world's top magicians to be seen in our area. I'm very excited.
Amazing.
It's going to run July 9th through the 12th, and I think we need to do our show live from the Magicians Convention.
We'll appear and disappear. We'll get cut in half. All kinds of cool stuff.
I used to do that. I used to saw a woman in half. I did the zigzag lady.
You sawed specifically women in half?
Well, back then we sawed women in half.
Got some real issues here.
It's going to be over at the Royal Sonesta in the Galleria, and you can find out more, I'm sure, somewhere.
Will the great Ernesto return? What was your magician name, Ernie? The great Bingaman?
It was Ernie's World of Magic. And, you know, I could never do anything simple. So I had Ernie's Magic Dancers, and I had 3 assistants.
Oh, my God.
And what we used to do is we used to close off the street in front of my house, and we would rehearse every Saturday. We didn't have many shows, but we rehearsed all the time, dancing in the street to the magic and the music. And, you know, I'll post some pictures.
You know,
there are some pictures out
really
there.
believe you. I really believe that you would do this and have rehearsals and do all of those things.
If you were a magic fan or loved magic, or you know how many talk show hosts start off in magic? Johnny Carson did. I believe Dick Cavett did. It's kind of a...
Ernie Muniz did.
Ernie Muniz did. Celeste wants to make me disappear some days, so she could be a magician too.
I try.
Give us a call. Share your stories. What did you do as a kid that impacted who you are today? That seems really broad.
I was really into community theater. I would I spent a lot of summers at Camille Leitner Playhouse in Brownsville, Texas.
So why aren't you the actress today?
Well, maybe I am acting right now.
Maybe. Well, she does a good job of it. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. We got a whole lot more because we are live at Comicpalooza today.
Coming up on Hello Houston, as Ernie said, we're live from Comicpalooza, and we'll talk with Rice University's Dr. Stanford Carpenter about Comicpalooza University, and Houston Community College's Gil Muniz about Comic Couture. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is rooted in our community. We show up at school board meetings, city council votes, and neighborhood events.
That's how you stay informed about what's happening around you through deep local reporting that brings clarity and insight.
Your support powers this public service, so Greater Houston stays informed, connected, and safe.
Support local journalism right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Discover how much fun you can have on a holiday in Liverpool.
Liverpool is one of the world's greatest ports.
Choose a good home base for a hiking vacation.
You know, you get to form real relationships.
And look around for traces of the Roman Empire.
Look at what I can do. I can build a wall right across Britain.
It's all on the next Travel with Rick Steves.
You can hear that tomorrow morning. It's on at 6 o'clock.
This Juneteenth, Living on Earth finds hope and resilience amid climate and environmental injustice.
All of this is about how we choose to be in relationship as human beings to each other and with our non-human siblings, because we need each other. We literally need each other to survive.
Tune in to celebrate Juneteenth with Living on Earth from PRX.
It's on tomorrow night at 10 o'clock on News 88.7.
Support comes from Asia Society Texas, featuring Hung Shen, Between Worlds, and Explore Asia. Exhibitions offering an interactive and educational experience for the whole family. More at asiasociety.org/Texas.
Support comes from electricityplans.com, helping Houstonians find electricity plans based on home energy usage, with tools to compare rates. Enrollment details and more at electricityplans.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Muniz, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Academic professors and researchers from all over the nation come together at Comicpalooza for a series of curated panels examining pop culture and everything from comics to anime and literature for an event called Comicpalooza University. To tell us more about the event is Dr. Stanford Carpenter. Stanford received his PhD in cultural anthropology from Rice University and is the chairman of the board of directors for the Institute for Comic Studies and the academic liaison for Comicpalooza. Also joining us is...
It is Gil Muniz, who is from HCC, and he's here to talk about Comic Couture. They've got a bunch of great costumes out there. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's going to be a very exciting conversation because I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to start with you, Doctor. Oh my, he is a cultural anthropologist and his studies are in comics?
Yes, they are.
Explain that for people who think, what?
That sounds really fun.
Well, it is. I mean, I sometimes I do feel like I'm living the dream.
Sure.
In my case, I was always interested in comics as a kid. I had a weekly comic strip in the Pacific Northwest for a minute, and then I was still in touch with some of my advisors. At the time, I was also working as an archaeologist, doing map-making site illustration for a series of archaeological digs. And one of my former professors said, "You have to talk to some people in anthropology about what you're doing with your comics." There's retelling African folk tales. And I did, and that turned into an invitation to go to grad school.
Wow.
Wow. So then when we look at comic book culture and we look at it in front of us and think maybe 40s, 50s, 60s in those years, there is a deeper history to this then.
Yes, there is, and in fact, that's become a recent obsession of mine. For me, one thing that people who know me start to understand that the archaeological experience is really formal in terms of like how I do my research. So I've become obsessed with finding hidden figures in comics. So right now I'm actually will be presenting on it here at Comicpalooza University. I'm working with Sienna Greaves. She's also at public radio in Chicago, and we're doing a project on Ezra Clyde Jackson. And what's interesting about him is we're doing a podcast documentary, is that he was a black comic creator in the 1940s. And there were a lot of black comic creators in the 1940s, but they weren't visible. And when the war was over and white soldiers came back, and they moved in the industry, and most of the black comic creators were kicked out of the industry. So he went from living his dream to not being able to work in his chosen field. He eventually came back in the late 60s and early 70s. And it's just an amazing story, but there's a Houston connection. His daughter was Sheila Jackson Lee, former Congresswoman.
Wow.
Well, that brought it full circle fast.
Yes.
That is incredible.
So what we've done is we've gotten some really interesting. We've actually gotten support from Comicpalooza and also from the Houston Museum of African American Culture.
Sure.
To focus and explore on this. A little bit of help from Rice as well. And what's been interesting is going and interviewing, like, for example, Sheila Jackson Lee's widower, Erica Lee Carter, Trey Jackson, all related to Ezra Clyde Jackson, to start to put together his story and to look at it as an American story, right? Mm-hmm. And also to see things like, Sheila Jackson Lee's emphasis on issues having to do with reparations is very much inspired by what happened to her father.
Interesting.
Because she saw like what it did to him.
Sure.
And in his case, it's also a story about faith, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about, he became a deacon and a church elder, and that was a lot of what a pivot that he made. He was always religious, but there was a pivot that he made afterwards, and some family members have said that was where that it was through that faith that helped him get through that time.
Right, which in so many ways you see so many of these characters that are on display here talking about kind of that bigger, faith, not necessarily faith, but having that higher power.
It's always a higher calling. I mean, I like to say that comic book superheroes are ultimately power fantasies. Mm-hmm. And what's important about a power fantasy is it's asking the question, what would you do if you had the power? Mm-hmm. It's asking, it's weirdly challenging a belief that absolute power corrupts. So like that's kind of the difference between a superhero and a supervillain. The superhero doesn't get corrupted by his power or her power. And if you look at it that way, it also explains its appeal, especially to children and to marginalized groups, mm-hmm. because they tend to be on the short end of power, right?
I want to dig deeper into all of that in just a little bit, but Gil is with us too, and Gil just gave a good happy jazz hands.
Yes. So Gil, talk to us a little bit about Comic Couture, Comicpalooza Couture.
This was a competition that one of the organizers here at Comicpalooza, Russell, came to HCC Fashion and asked us if we would be interested in doing this last year, and it was a mile hit. We had, a few entries last year because inauguration with these things is pretty slow sometimes. But now we have more students entering this time. We had another school, University of Houston Downtown, entered into it as well.
So what is it exactly?
So basically the idea is taking inspiration from a comic book character and creating clothes inspired by them. It's not cosplay, so it's not like making an actual replica of what they wear. It's like looking at it, being inspired by it, changing it into something that's more ready to wear or evening couture, and giving it a new life, but using the inspiration of the comic book character.
So kind of like when you're looking at a runway and something fantastical comes down the runway, and then they create the version that actually gets sold in stores.
Exactly.
Here you're looking at these images from these movies and comic books and creating true fashion.
Exactly. And
I feel like we have the future Met Gala theme for like next year, this year coming up. Yeah.
Oh, that's really kind of fun. I want to go back a little bit into the whole idea of comic books, and that I think those of us that are on the outside looking in would tend to think, until more recently, animation or animated stories or comics, where kids would get them, pick them up, read them. They were superhero and all that. But now we're seeing it more as literature can be presented that way. I'm curious, from the work that you're doing, Doctor, if you go back in history, is there the opportunity of these were easier to digest by other audiences that may not have had a literary background as fully, and it was a way to pass tradition through story?
You pin the tail on the donkey right there, right? So it is very much, when you go back, you do have those elements. And that's one of the beauties of comics. One of the things I also love about comics is that there's a lot of things that they do in terms of literacy, in terms of helping people learn to read, because you're not just reading, but you're also seeing it acted out, so you can kind of suss through it more quickly. But the other thing that's really interesting that you kind of touch on is that comics were not necessarily seen as entirely for kids when they started. And so where we are right now, in some ways, is a return to where we were in the industry in the later 40s, early 50s. You know, they were sending comic books to overseas during the war for soldiers to read. And in fact, like, the size of the comic is also works really well in a bellows pocket and a trench coat.
That is so interesting.
So that's always been there, and using comics to retell history and highlight historical figures. I mean, you go back to the 40s. You had superhero stories. We had Classics Illustrated as well, and they had superhero comics where sometimes in the back there'd be little illustrations of people, and then you've also got something else that's interesting of what was happening in the black press. In the black press, there were comics, and a lot of them weren't saved, and we're just now rediscovering them, and we're finding things like you've got Jay Jackson, who did Bungleton Green, and he was like, we're talking way back in like the 30s and 40s, like he's doing stories about black adventurers going into the future, going into the past. I mean, you're seeing science fiction and black horror, and at the same time, Jay Jackson was doing illustrations for pulp, for some of the pulp fiction that had that was science fiction based. So when we start talking about where the aesthetic for science fiction came from, it was not just white artists who were doing it.
But am I wrong to think, if I go back thousands and thousands of years to hieroglyphs and the way things were put on walls and painting, which told stories through the images that we were seeing, is that truly the birthplace of what we think of as comics in some way?
Some people would argue that is. Some people would argue.
Would you argue it isn't?
I don't think of comics so much as being born. I think of them as something. I think of something that evolved.
Okay.
I think of it as a storytelling language that uses both words and pictures, right? And it's been, in the case of comic books, it's refined into a specific product, right? And this is where you hear the nerd archaeologist in me, because I think in terms of like artifacts made by human beings, made by cultures, made by people working together to do something, to create something. So that's how I kind of see the comic book. So I don't argue against that, but I kind of see how, depending on what your orientation is, you might think of it differently.
And Dr. Carpenter, I want to clarify, because this is something that, as somebody who is semi-new to this type of con experience, is anime, we keep using anime or comic books, and we also had a YouTube question that's similar to this from Here There. It says, very cool guest, what's the technical difference between graphic novels and comic books? And that's from Kisha. And so that's my question. We hear anime, comic books, graphic novels. How do they intersect, and where are they different?
Okay, I'll start with where they intersect. They intersect in that we're talking about using words and pictures to tell a story, right? That you have a lot of different types of storytelling conventions that come into being. I like to say that comics are one of the early surrealist mediums, because you have a thought and words all happening at the same time. So you're seeing the interior of the person and the exterior of the person at the same time in a panel simultaneously. Now, where they differ, and this is where you start getting into what is a comic book, what is a graphic novel, what is a comic magazine. A lot of that has to do more with industry designations, right? So you think of a comic book like a floppy comic book, like that is something that is created in a specific form to be sold or to be distributed or to be shared, and you start to have certain specific storytelling conventions that emerge in there. So the floppy comics tend to have shorter stories, whereas like a graphic novel, you have like 250 pages to work with on that. We have quite a few people here who can really speak to that even better than I could as part of Comicpalooza University. So like that would be like a John Jennings or a Michael Dondo, right? But that's where the real difference is, like page count, but also being a comic book it fits within the magazine realm. And that means that it has a different type of ISBN and it stays on the shelf for a different period of time. The part of the movement towards graphic novels is that it has an ISBN number that's like a book. And so it will stay on a shelf for an indeterminate amount of time. So you have more time to sell. So that's where it comes from. But then there's also sort of the common everyday usage, which can be different. And sometimes people will refer to a graphic novel, but it's really a comic book. Or what's the difference between a comic book and a trade paperback? A trade paperback is when they take a whole bunch of floppy comic books, put them together, and bound them.
You're listening to Hello Houston, live from Comicpalooza. We are speaking with Rice University's Dr. Stanford Carpenter about Comicpalooza University and Houston Community College's Gil Muniz about Comic Couture. If you have questions, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Gil, we're talking a lot about history and about the evolution of these things, and I can't help but think about the fact that really our fashion tells a story in and of itself. And bringing these images that are almost pop culture images into fashion, what do you see as the story there that's being told, and how does it really impact true fashion that we will see on the streets one day?
It's always been said that fashion is a barometer of civilization. So when you look at the way clothes are worn in certain eras, you have things going all the way back to the Middle Ages, like sumptuary laws and things like that say you cannot wear this or you have to wear this in your sect or caste or whatever you are. I think nowadays the way fashion works is kind of anything goes. So when we have things like you can probably walk on the street in a Spider-Man outfit and no one will say anything. And I think that nowadays as we look at fashion, it's evolved from restriction into freedom. So, I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place right now, and there's not really a...
We've mentioned I've had the chance recently to start reviving my old series Interviews, and one of the guests we have recorded, we haven't aired it yet, though, is Donna Mills, who was on Knots Landing back in the 80s. And one of the questions came up was the fact about her big, heavy eyeshadow that she used to do, which became the look of the 80s. And where this becomes relevant for me is something in pop culture got such a foothold that it impacted the way we dressed out there in everyday life. And even though you say everything goes, there are these certain inspirations that will happen in a moment that capture a nation or the globe even. And I'm curious what you're seeing now that comes out of this world, of the world of the sci-fi and the action films and this fantasy work, that you see actually getting a stronghold in the fashion industry.
Oh boy, right now I think it would probably be more like this comic idea of just taking like characters and stuff like that used to be relegated to children's wear, that you now see it more in adult clothing, where the student, I would honestly say like onesies became a thing at one point where everybody wanted to wear a onesie.
Yes, I still do.
Yeah, and it's just, you can get a onesie in any character you've ever wanted, and you can walk into any grocery store and no one will question it.
So, they question it.
Well, yeah.
When I go out in my onesie, I get questions.
I think that's probably something that's just, it's more about like character driven. It's more about like things that are just more personal nowadays. Because at one point, we were talking about this. We talk about this a lot in the department. We'll talk about at one point when you went downtown to go shopping, women wore nice clothes, you wore gloves, you wore a hat, you did all these things. Now you can walk into any store in a onesie, and it's one of those things where I think over time there's this relaxation of fashion.
So is that good or bad? Is
I was
getting
just thinking
lazy?
the same
Yeah.
thing.
Should we be in
Gil,
gloves?
you were like talking couture, and couture means the most tailored, the most beautiful, the most highest end type of artistry when it comes to sewing and fashion and fabrics. And so when you look at how fashion has been so relaxed, how does that make you feel as somebody within that industry?
Well, so the way I look at it is this. In the industry, as far as production is concerned, production has gotten easier and more complicated. So you can make more complicated clothes for less money. So you can have more expensive looking clothes. And then you have the other side of that, which is fast fashion, which is more disposable clothing. So it's a weird dichotomy because you're looking at it and thinking,
I love fast fashion.
I hate fast fashion.
Yes. Well, but it's also like it's also my mentality is like if you buy a piece that you really like and you take care of it, you can wear it for a long time, even if it is fast fashion.
Yes.
So and then of course now you have stores like H&M that do designer collaborate. You can get a Comme des Garçons H&M jacket for $100, and it's like. That's insane.
Before we run out of time, I want to go back to the doctor to help us understand. We talked around it, but Comicpalooza University, who's it for? What are they going to see? How do they get involved? Give us the 411.
Where can I register?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the idea is really simple, is we're trying to create a space for public scholarship and community engagement.
Cool.
And we're doing it around comics. We're doing it around academics. The other thing that I am hoping that we can do is to also build an academic community around Comicpalooza and around Houston. And we're not just doing it with Houston, though. Like if you look at our lineup, we have 35 participants. Amongst them we have about a third of them are from the Houston area, a third of them are from Greater Texas, and a third of them are from all over the country. We've got multiple disciplines represented. We've got someone like a Shelley Clevenger who's the chair of victim studies over at Sam Houston State University. We've got Margarita Kosterman who's in English and African American studies over at Rice. We've got John Jennings who's at UC at UC Riverside, right?
Yeah.
And who's both a scholar and a comic creator. So
I'm
we're
assuming
bringing them
the
all
full
together.
schedule can be found on comicpalooza.com, and they can see all the different. And they're
Yes.
all, if you're already inside the fest, are these open to the public to come to?
All of them are open, and one thing that we've also done is, first of all, we're at this stage, so just come back here and you can come to Comicpalooza University. It's that simple.
We're already in class.
But behind us we have booths. And the idea behind the booth is we have a community engagement booth. And the idea is that whenever I speak at comic conventions, I always have somebody come to me like, hey, I have a niece or a nephew, and I think she'd be really interested in what you do. How would you go on the path that you're going on? So what we do is we have a booth back there with just chairs, so that after the convention, or after the panel happens, if there's a panelist that you like, you can have a place to go talk to the panelists.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And they can share about like how you might want to go on the path to do what I do, or to study this at a college level or grad school. So that's part of the community engagement side of what we're doing.
That is beautiful. And Gil, where can people see this amazing fashion on display?
Right up front. It's right when you walk in.
But it's even better. It's in front of the glass window, so even if you're not in here, you can walk along the avenue.
You can do some window shopping.
You
can, yeah.
Okay, before we let you go, Gil, what should people not miss in there? Is there something that stands out, or a couple that just you were like, I would have never thought that?
And these were made by students.
These are made by students, yes.
Wow.
So I'm not allowed to pick favorites.
I keep trying to get her.
They're all amazing
Frank's
and
not
beautiful.
Here. My favorite.
You're my favorite.
I'm sorry, Gil. Which one did you say was your favorite?
God, I can't say.
Okay, fine. We'll
but let me twist the question.
Okay.
What should people make sure they don't miss?
They shouldn't miss any of it. It's
there you
it's
go.
all amazing.
Beautiful. Dr. Stanford Carpenter is the chairman of the board of directors for the Institute for Comic Studies and the academic liaison for Comicpalooza, and Houston Community College's Gil Muniz is here from Comic Couture. Dr. Carpenter and Gil, thanks so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Seems like Gil's going to be running for office sometime soon. He was very good about not picking a favorite.
After the break, we'll talk to artist Bobby Ramos. Stay with us. You're listening to News 88.7.
When Rose heard stories that the owner of an addiction treatment center was harassing patients and giving them drugs.
What? I mean, I really had a little mini nervous breakdown.
Then one day, the owner tells her how he wants to deal with a whistleblower.
He's like, wouldn't it be better if he were just gone? What about him having a car wreck?
Dark secrets in the addiction treatment industry on the next Reveal.
You can hear it tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Kit Marvel's new book, Human Nature, tests what it means to be a scientist.
I had this notion that we should all be perfectly objective, neutral, scientific robots. Then it dawned upon me that that's not the way to make yourself more credible.
Climate scientist Kate Marvel, the latest on Iran and Israel and all the news Saturday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
It starts tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
It's more important than ever to stay informed. That's why Houston Public Media delivers well-researched news that's free for everyone.
And right now, your support helps make sure it stays that way. No subscription, no paywall, just news that's here when you need it.
Give today to keep yourself and your community informed, no matter what the future holds.
Make your donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Ricardo Mascara, who developed a comprehensive care clinic to improve outcomes for children with complex medical needs. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Muniz, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Ramos Renditions is a longtime exhibitor at Comicpalooza, as well as a 2025 badge art winner. Based in the Houston area, they specialize in creating all sorts of artwork, from large murals to canvas works and everything in between. With us now to tell us more is Bobby Ramos, co-founder of Ramos Renditions. Bobby, welcome to Hello Houston. Thanks for joining Ernie and I.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I want to start right off with what Celeste was talking about the badge art. You'll see people walk around and see these badges. Where does the artwork come from that we see on these?
It comes from all the artists that submit their stuff throughout the, I guess, like the time period that they tell us, right? They say it's open for open submission and everybody tries their luck, and a lot of times you don't get it. Sometimes you do get it, and when you do, it's a really good it's a good time.
It's really fun. As I understand, then next year's badges might very well have your picture on it, or this year.
Well, okay, so like, you mean like my actual photo? Or
no,
my,
your actually your art, not your photo.
I was going to say, I didn't sign off on that. I don't think so. No, yeah, this year's badges for, I think the Speed Pass for Resident Alien have ours. So last year we had the Speed Pass for Back to the Future. So it was the Back to the Future kit. And then the year before that for William Shatner, I believe.
I did the Back to the Future panel.
Very cool.
Yeah, those are great guys, yeah.
So, Bobby, it says you guys, Ramos Renditions, how many artists are within this Ramos Renditions?
So every year it's a different number, but usually we range about 12 artists.
And are they all Houston-based artists?
Yes, they're all Houston-based. Most of us went to college together. Sometimes it's people we see at different shows, smaller shows, and we want to really kind of invoke that, bigger show feeling for them. So we invite them to come out. A little less overhead, right, because they're coming under our umbrella, and then they can kind of see where they are monetarily or if they even want to be doing this type of show. But most of the time, they're having a great time, and then if they do really, really well, sometimes they graduate out of Ramos Renditions. Sometimes they'll do their own thing, but I'm very proud of them. Don't gasp. It's okay. I'm very proud of those people that go on to do their own thing, and they realize how hard it is to produce and do all the production stuff to make these things happen. And they always call back and say,
Talk to me a little about scale, because I know, like, we're talking about the badges, and your artwork may appear on the badges.
Yeah.
But then you also do mural work.
Yes.
So when you're thinking about the artwork you're doing, are you thinking about scale, or can you scale anything to fit whatever?
I don't like scaling anything to fit because of the fact that if there's a lesser, like if you have a very small artwork piece and then you make it very large, sometimes those details don't translate too well. So you want to do a larger piece. Also, My wife and I, we run a mural business also, so we're always thinking big, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
We want huge walls. We want, outside. We want a lot of eyes on it to see it. But when you have to bring that down to canvas level, the bigger canvases are like 75 by 53 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the Back to the Future piece was 75 by 42.
Right.
So that was, for everyone else, it was massive, right? For us, I was like, oh, it's a good size. No big deal.
Where can people see a mural around Houston? That's one of yours and your wife's.
Yeah, so one of the most, I guess, viewed ones right now is at Dyken Park. Mm-hmm. So we did the inauguration mural for Dyken Park the first year that they actually had that name. And it's an Astros homage mural, so it has a lot of different players in there, some of the All-Stars that have gone before. And then also, of course, everybody's favorite is Altuve, right? So, or at least that's how everybody knows anyway.
And Bobby, there are a lot of muralists in Houston, and we have a lot of murals around the city.
Yeah.
How did you get into it, and how did you get picked for that project?
So I've been painting forever, right? I've been painting since I can remember. These shows have been also an outlet for that. And I've met a lot of people through all these different cons, and Comicpalooza specifically, I think. One of the ladies that I did a mural for, or that I was going to do a mural for in her hairdresser shop or her haircut spot, barber shop, whatever it is. Salon, yeah, there you go. A lady's haircut place.
Lady's haircut place is usually called a salon.
A salon, yeah, there you go. She wanted a piece done, and she said, oh, it's a little bit out of my price range. Let me wait a little while. And I told her we'd work with her, try to get her thing going. But she said, you're such a nice guy. I'm going to put you towards this other guy that I cut his hair, and he's a great guy. He works with the Astros. Now, I didn't know if that meant he worked at the stadium or he's just, a regular guy. But it turns out he was a pretty higher executive out there.
Wow.
And he asked us, to submit for that project. And he said, if you guys want, think about it. And here's what the budget and all the rules, because there's a lot of rules. And then the timeline was very, very short. It was a 6-day turnaround. Wow. And it was intense.
You talk about being a vendor here, and there are lots of vendors here. And I think people really aren't prepared, if you haven't been before, of the scope of what we can find here. What are some of the things? I know it's outside of exactly what you do, but when you wander this floor, what are some of the things that shock you that you find here?
I mean, one of my favorite things at the end, or towards the end of the day of each day, is to run as fast as I can around everywhere so I don't miss the things that I want, right?
There's so many things.
There's so many things. And
I want
my wife,
all the things.
Don't let my wife hear this interview. She's going to be like, you don't need any more things. But it's one of those beautiful moments where you can go just to the next aisle and you see 3D prints that you haven't seen before. Cool. You see toys you haven't seen before. You see figures, statues. You see quilts. I mean, you see everything. Cosplay items, right? Things that you would just, where else am I going to find this stuff? Nowhere but here. So.
And I know this show has not yet officially opened yet, but I'm curious, what do you think are going to be the big items this year? Where's the emphasis going? A couple of years ago, it was everything was Spider-Man. Then everything was Game of Thrones for a while.
Game of Thrones was
What
huge,
do you think is going to be really sucking everyone in this year?
2025, I don't think there's been any super hardcore anchor.
Because of kind of weak year last year
because
of the writers' strike the year before.
Right.
So.
Who knew Ernie knew so much about Comicpalooza culture?
He's a savant. He knows all of it.
Well, the idiot part maybe I have down better.
He's got it.
Yeah, because last year didn't have that big breakout. So what are people?
I think the good thing is that we have Hayden Christensen coming down and the Darth Vader.
As a matter of fact, if you weren't listening from the beginning of the show, I'll be moderating that conversation tonight at 6 o'clock in the General Assembly. So if you're here at Comicpalooza, come by and see Ernie and Hayden Christensen.
And him too. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The big draw this year is you, bud.
Thank you.
Right. Hayden Christensen, Ernie Muniz.
Yeah. How do you decide?
No, but I think that's going to be a big thing.
So do the guests then influence how the people experience the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. What they look for. I mean, even as a seller standpoint, you want to create pieces that are going to be bought so they can be signed, right? Because people buy these things, they collect them. It's something that's really great. The Back to the Future piece, just to kind of circle back to that, we sold that a very good price. The guy was an avid collector. I mean, the biggest Back to the Future collector guy I've ever met. And we delivered the piece to his home. He wanted to show us his Back to the Future room.
Don't tell him I've never seen the movie.
Oh no, yeah, no, he would make you sit down and watch it.
So is this guy in Houston?
Yeah, he's in
Wow.
Houston. He's pretty good home and everything. His family was very supportive of his stuff. And
quickly, of everything that's happening this year at the con, what are you most excited for?
Oh man, the people, to see my people again. There's a lot of people that come back, and not just vendors, but like
you build
the
a
customers
community
also.
here.
Yeah,
I noticed that just from some of the cosplayers I see every year, and the folks that are here that come and enjoy it.
Yeah,
you see them year after year. It's really a family.
It's a wonderful time. I mean, it's something that I can't replace with anything else. That's why I keep coming back, and
Well, we're happy you do, and we're happy you took time to come and join us.
Wonderful.
Today.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Bobby Ramos is the co-founder of Ramos Renditions. Again, Bobby, thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to see your spot, your new art.
Yeah, there's a few pieces. I'm going to still be bringing some out tomorrow, but you got it.
Cool.
Awesome, and that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening and chatting with us and joining us for Hello
It's going to be
Houston.
very boring on Monday to be back in a studio when we get to be here.
Frank will be back, and we are live from Comicpalooza, but that will be taking place from today, June 20th through June 22nd, here in Houston at the George R. Brown Convention Center. Hello Houston will be back in studio on Monday with more conversations. Have a great weekend. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Scan Health Plan, a not-for-profit Medicare Advantage plan that has been dedicated to the health and independence of their members since 1977. More information at scanhealthplan.com.
Your NPR